can I can call upon the stage Mr. Sukant Deepak and Ms. Parul, please. Please come up on the stage. Do we have their name tags made? Yeah. वो देख लो अगर है. Last minute of this meeting. Good afternoon, bed. Sorry for waiting, but I think we're okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. So, friends, although it's a rather late in the day and the few of us who are still there must be tired, but and to be honest, I mean, definitely I wanted more audience, but more is not necessarily better. It is more can actually be very boring. So it's perhaps and by some so perhaps the fewer people, if you feel that this is more meaningful, I would be happier that way. And I think it's not my happiness. I think it'll be a more meaningful program. Okay. So friends, this is a different kind of a session, and we thought that since we're talking about public mental health so much and talking about mental health, we're talking about destigmatization, we're talking about breaking the four walls, we're talking about coming out in the open and all this kind of stuff. There's no point in only having a panel or a symposium with big people talking about big things and putting everyone almost to slumber. But rather, perhaps it's more meaningful to have one or two persons and then interact with whosoever is there in the hall to listen to them from them about people who actually have struggled either with their own mental health issues or, as has been emphasized since yesterday, starting from Professor Norman Sartorius's, I would say that was a real hallmark of that lifetime speech, that one of the major focuses should be also on the well-being, not only with patient. We'll avoid the word patients right now because I'm not a doctor here at the moment. Okay, so we're talking about people with lived experiences, but also the well-being of the caregivers or the family members or people who have struggled or who have co-struggled with them as well. And here we have, friends, two persons who are very close to me in personally, but that's besides the point. Can I take your names? Is that okay? Yeah. So thank you. So we have Sukant Deepak is a freelance journalist. We won't go into very much into personal details because I don't think that's necessary, or I'll leave it to them, whatever they would like to, how much they'd like to talk about. So Sukant is, if I may use again the traditional word is quote unquote my patient, one of my patients, but here he's a person with lived experience and he has a dual role. He's both a person with lived experience. He's doing well, fingers crossed, freelance journalist, but also he has lived with, he'll talk about that, his father, who had struggled with lifelong, very severe mental illness. I would put that as illness. He was hospitalized here and etc. for a very long time. So that's Sukant. So he will share his experience, and I'll request Sukant to read out a small excerpt. He's an excellent writer, absolutely touching. So पूरा तो आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा. You have to go through the whole thing. It's a book, but just some small excerpt to set the ball rolling, to see the angst, the pathos, the personal touches that will come up with to set the ball rolling. The second panelist, if you will, or speaker is actually Sukant's sister, Parul. So they're brother and sister, and Parul is a full-scale journalist, if I may use that word, as opposed to a freelance. I mean, no, freelance is not a derogatory word, by the way. So Parul is a journalist and has taken up journalism as a career, and she would also have to talk about the stigma surrounding these issues, processing of her own manner. I'll make it a free session, okay? I'm not imposing any agenda on anything, except that what I've just now said. So without any, Dr. Pratap, would you like to say anything at this time? Just to follow. Then after that, we'll request Sukant to start.
Yeah, I think these sessions are very important for multiple reasons. Like one, it helps the people who have lived experience of uh, being either with an illness or with family members who have illnesses. It gives them a sense of uh, being respected for the condition that they have been through and how they have dealt with it. For family members, it often gives a kind of in a direct way, it gives them direct. They learn more about coping abilities with other people, and for mental health professionals, particularly, these sessions are important because we learn uh, what we are doing and how it reflects on the people who are uh, to whom we are providing services as such. It also gives us a lot of information about our own blind spots, and that probably helps. It's a corrective experience for us, and that's why these sessions, which could be called a trialogue or a multi-log, are particularly important. And I'm involved a bit in this session also because I have treated, partly at least, uh, uh, their father at
I think we
some
can
point of
take the
time. So
names
we'll take
also
it.
because we are coming out. So it
Yeah.
takes up.
So,
Anyway.
but I'll talk more about it
Yeah.
later. Thank you.
So thank you. And just what I'm happy to see three senior teachers, psychiatrists here as well, because they are the people who are, I'm so happy to see Dr. Srinivas Murthy again make a re-entry after a Berlin day. It's very important for them to be there. We'll listen to them later. Sukant now, straight. And there is no slides. There are nothing. Okay. It's just talk, dialogue. Listen to this.
So, before I start reading from the book, besides my many fears, there is the stage fear. But I think there are many psychiatrists there who will take care of me if something happens. So, I'd like to start with the thing that it's about Swadesh Deepak, but it's also about me. So, this is an opportunity for me to thank all the consultants who've been extremely generous and kind to me. And I'm not saying it because they are here. This includes Dr. Pratap Sharan, Dr. Mattu, Dr. Subbu Chakravarti, and now Dr. Bose, who I trouble no end. Now I'll come to Papa Elsewhere. So this is part of the book called A Book of Light, edited by Jerry Pinto. And it's about people who are caregivers. So the first essay is by me. So I'll just read patches. Between 3 and 3:30 a.m., he would knock on the door of my room, which was held in place delicately by a latch. He would call out my name. No, he would whisper it. For some time, I would pretend that I couldn't hear anything. The knocking would then become persistent. I would get out of the bed and go close the door, but not open it. He would plead, hit me on the head with a rod. I know you keep one under your bed. I know you can do it. Each time I would tell him to get lost. I would treat him like the dog we never had. Then on the morning of 7th June 2006, he went for a walk and never returned. When we, my mother, my sister, and I were convinced that he was not coming back, there was a collective sigh of relief. There was almost a celebration. I hope we never see his face again, my sister said. I hope too. So did my mother, who taught chemistry for a living but loved the arts. Well, she could reproduce Hussein well. We were talking about a man who received the highest honor in India, the Sangeet Natak Academy Award for his play Court Martial.
It's a long chapter, so
So I'm just reading patches and then we can talk.
Touching. Just.
In 2006, my mother called. Swadesh has not come back since he went out yesterday. I instantly knew that he was never coming back. I got the motorcycle refueled, stopped at my favorite bar for 2 beers, and set off for Ambala. We decided to wait another day. He did not return. There was no note. His wristwatch, wallet, and two torches, which he always kept by his side, were in his room. No, we did not launch any massive search operation. We did not go to Haridwar as suggested by some relatives. Yes, I did meet his psychiatrist once, Dr. Mattu. Just pray that he is not alive. he said, "You have no idea what he must be going through without his lithium. I know that he will never come back. However, just to be sure, I still keep an iron rod under my bed."
Uh,
So,
yeah,
if Parul would like to add something to it, uh,
as you wish, or would you like someone to respond?
Yes,
Huh?
would be.
Would that be
Okay.
better?
Yes.
I mean, it's open. You can ask me anything. I'm myself a patient for a very long time now. Two of my consultants are here, two are not here. So you can ask me anything. And I've had my paroxetine in the morning. Don't worry.
Uh, है? ये दे दो ना. We don't listen to the minds because we have plenty of these things here. Just think, inform. Okay, just for all.
Uh, 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 one comment and one question.
Ji.
One is the comment is that I'm deeply appreciative of people who have come out with their lived-in experiences with illnesses.
Thank you.
This had been a trend in the West for quite some time.
Right.
There are many books, many biographies, autobiographies, but in India, it's a very recent trend. And people have come out with their psychiatric illnesses, people have come out with their cancer or any other chronic illness. So I think it's a very healthy trend because number of things which patient, their families or other stakeholders, they don't get to learn from the hospital or from the doctor's chamber. They learn from these books because these are the internal emotions and the way they had coped with their problems, which otherwise were not solved by the medical fraternity. That is one comment. So I'm very, very appreciative, and it takes a lot of courage to come out in public to share things which you have just narrated.
Thank you.
Second is that what gave you the courage? I believe you are the author, right?
Right. Yes.
What gave you the motivation or the courage to pen it down? Because as I said, that it takes courage. So what was the courage or motivation behind your writing? Thank you very much.
I thought this would take off some guilt from my shoulders because I've always believed that I wasn't kind enough to him. But I was wrong. It didn't take off any guilt as such. So that's the answer in short. But it was nice writing it. That's it. I mean, I feel that it is quite overrated that writing or any art form is a cathartic experience. It's again very subjective. For some, it may be. For me, it has never been. So for me, after writing it also, I was quite disturbed. But that's me. So
Yeah.
not really. Not really.
Sir, Dr. Srinivasan.
Thank you, Sukant. I read your story in Pinto's book. I have it here about 5 years or 6 years back. I was deeply impressed. And so when you mentioned it, immediately I was able to pull it out. I think it's a very, very brave. And this book itself is a fantastic book of when the person is of other mind. And yeah, you have it with you. Yeah. I think it's a fantastic work which Pinto did.
Yes.
And particularly following Amandeep's Sepia Leaves, which was the
Right.
starting about 12 years back.
Yes.
Now more and more books are coming. Mental health, Kichdi, number of things. I compliment you for that.
Thank you.
And I compliment the organizers for making this an important part of a session like this.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
I myself have been working with caregivers, what I call loss, love, and growth stories of people like this. This is only with special children with needs and caregivers. Not only that we have done it, we have also developed a guide for caregivers to live well mentally and to handle stress. And this is freely available to anyone who want to use it. So I think it's a very important session. Congratulations to the organizers, to you for coming and sharing it with us. As Sudhir said, the more and more of you can come forward. One last word I want to add. In spite of my 50 years of psychiatry, last 6-8 months, I have been a member of the mission. That is the Amrit Bakshi's group, WhatsApp group of caregivers.
Right.
the type of issues that I am seeing it are so different than what I had been seeing for the last 50 years. Not that I didn't know about it, but the acuteness, the complexity of it, and the distress part of it is coming through. And I think more and more of you, if I can use the word you, we are also part of you, but more and more of the people with illness, caregivers. For example, there is a beautiful book called Barriers to Recovery by Pratiksha Sharma. She also did a program in Delhi about a month back in India Habitat Center. These are very important contributions, like it happened 110 years back by The Mind That Found Itself by Clifford Beers, which started the mental hygiene movement in 1908. So congratulations to all of you, are the organizers, for this excellent thing.
Thank you.
I pray that you have more and more strength to sensitize us, tell us what it is. And just to share, the first speaker, Dr. Sartorius, emphasized exactly what you are talking about.
That's what
He said caregivers is the most important next phase of mental health care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you, please. I will come back to you. We have time. Definitely. Let Parul speak. Okay, it's important. And I promise after that next info there, she will speak. Perfect.
So I've had a journey of caregiving for my father as well as my mother. So I'll take it up from where Sukant left, saying that I said that I wish he would never come back. So at that time, I was a young woman and I was angry. Okay, sorry. I was angry. I was disappointed. I felt humiliated. I felt cheated because I had to go through many things at that age. At 22, I could not process it. I could not understand it. I could not understand how a brilliant man could go to pieces like this. But 20 years later, I have been kind. I have become kinder to him, to my memories. And all I can say is that I wish I'd never said that he doesn't come back. But the journey has not been easy. So it has taken a lot from me to process it, to understand that it was human and it was not in his control. But I really wish that more empathy was given to caregivers, because we ourselves go through a lot of angst and anger, and I wish doctors would help us too in the process.
Thank you. Thank you, Parul. Thank you very much for saying that. I think now the lady there, you wanted to say? Yes, please. You have a mic there, or use that? Use that. Yeah.
Sir, I'm Dr. Anil, Professor and Head of the Department of Psychiatry at Ernakulam Medical College, Ernakulam, Kerala. So I was in Trivandrum. Some 20 years back, we started a group for caregivers and recovered persons in Trivandrum called Manasa, mentally and neurologically ailing persons, self-help group. The self-help was the key word. But long years, it's very difficult to sustain that group, and it is not going. We wanted in the community led by the carers and recovered persons. Very difficult to find people to run the group. We tried every self-help group or sharing groups every week, but it's very difficult to move forward. But now, our joint, I am the secretary, and another joint secretary is there. He is a lived person with lived experience. He is very active, and now it is growing. In another 2 districts, we could start. In Kottayam, now in Ernakulam, we started group. So it is possible now. People are coming out, and I appreciate your. And I think we should communicate each other, and as a national level, we should move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. You also wanted to say something? Yeah, Adrija, and I think kindly. I'm forgetting your name. Sorry, we met last time. You. Yes. Oh, okay. Then it's fine. Because the lady had raised the hand, so I just wanted to give her a chance. But if you feel that you already said, then yes, Adrija.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions. The first one is for you, sir. And a little bit context before I ask the question. So I myself am someone who has lived with a decade of mental health issues like PTSD, depression, anxiety, and substance use disorder. And I've always been very vocal about this. I haven't written a book yet, although I'm working on it, but I have been putting things on social media my whole life. And as a result of that, a lot of other people with similar lived experiences have reached out to me, finding strength and resilience in the fact that I'm even vocalizing these things. So, have you experienced anybody reaching out to you with similar stories, feeling heard just because you put your words out? That's for you, sir. And for you, ma'am, my question is, I also have a very complicated relationship with my father. And what I realized was that intellectually, the kindness comes a lot sooner, and emotionally, it comes a lot later. And for the emotional work, there's a lot of bodily work that I had to do in the sense of understanding how to relax my body. So I was wondering if you went through any kind of bodily reaction to your trauma as well.
So yes, I ended up with losing 15 kilos. Um, I had joint pains which no doctor could diagnose. I had to go through, I did 3 hours or 4 hours of yoga to keep myself sane. I went through psychotherapy, things that I've never discussed before because you don't want to put yourself in the center. So yes, it was like you said, it was a lot of body work to make the mind sane. And it continues to date. The pain, the anger has shifted from the center to the side. I would lie if I said I'm completely healed. But yes, I'm more understanding of my own pain. And I think I have forgiven myself because I was guilty all the time for not doing enough as a daughter, as a mother, as a worker, as a friend. So I have stopped feeling guilty all the time. So it has been constant work and it continues. Every day in the morning, I get up and say, I'm going to make a habit out of it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So some people did reach out, and what I did was connect them to the editor of the book and the publisher of the book. Because honestly, I wouldn't be able to help them in the practical world, you know, and I'm not qualified enough to talk about mental illness also or their issues. What I have written here is just a lived experience. So I felt that connecting to them would be more beneficial. So that's what I did. And, there was this assumption that I would continue to write on this theme. Many of them had this assumption when I had to make it very clear that I'm not going to write on this again. So, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
The change that has occurred in the last 15 years is dramatic. I want to share this episode with you. About 15 years back, there is a book written by an Indian American, Gayatri Ramaprasad, called Shadows in the Sun, uh, Healing from Depression and Finding Light Within. She came to Bangalore in 2008, wanting to get people to talk about it. She couldn't get anyone to come to her meetings. She wanted to go to Madras and Bombay. She couldn't get people to sponsor it. When Amandeep wrote about his mother, sepia leaves, the same experience. But today, it's a very different atmosphere. More and more people with mental illness, addiction, cancer, all these people are coming forward to make their personal narrative known to the other people. And that is the only way you'll change the world. Otherwise, if you keep it, thinking that I will be, and in point of fact, if you know, as I'm sure you know it, this book of White Light came out of the book, things which Pinto did. He wrote a book about his mother's bipolar disorder, which got the award from the Hindu. Then lots of people started writing. Then he said, he'll put it together. I think it's a very right direction. We should, and there are some strengths in our Indian family. That's a different other topic which you can talk about. But coming out into the open, talking about it, and sharing the pluses and minuses. I'm myself a cancer survivor. I talk about it. I've written about it. and I openly talk about it because I want people to understand you can live with cancer, or you can live with mental illness, you can live with addiction. Thank you very much.
I've heard Jerry Pinto, I've heard Sandhu, and now I'm also hearing Sukhan Deepak. So the one thing which kind of came across all their three stories, stories of all the three people, was that as mental health professionals, we often pay a decent amount of attention to the client that we are seeing. Like I would spend probably a decent amount of time with Mr. Swadesh Deepak. Relatively, we take the family members for granted. We give them 1 minute, 2 minutes, and he brings that across in the chapter where he says that I am a man with very few words. I make a sentence of 4 words and leave it there. But I think with Swadesh Deepak, I used to talk much more. And with many of my direct clients, I'm far more vocal. And it makes a difference to the clients, family members particularly, that we are not trying to understand their issues. We are not trying to answer their questions. And one of the lessons that I got from this book, as well as from Jerry Pinto's, he's very vocal about it, that doctors are horrible to, particularly to the caregivers. So that is one. The second point that I kind of want to make is that, like with Mr. Swadesh Deepak, he was, the way he is portrayed in Sukhan's book and my own experience of him are completely different, in the sense that I used to find him extremely decent as a person. He was a celebrated writer, but he would come and wait for 1 hour, 2 hours in the ante room of the waiting area, essentially. And I've never treated him as someone special. It was, the idea was that I should treat him the same way as I will treat any other patient, and he was quite comfortable about it. He would never try to, as a person, like I was a young faculty at that time, and he was a celebrated author. So one would expect that he would be a little condescending to a doctor as young as me at that time, but he would be very, very. It was an equal kind of a relationship, and that used to surprise me. Both the fact that he's so different to different people, and that a person of his stature was decent to a young doctor. These are some of the points that I would want to make.
What was it? What was it, Sukant, which was perhaps made it very difficult? Because that part you have not mentioned there. You mentioned the difficulty and how it caused. What do you now, looking back, would be, and is there a message that we can perhaps extract from there for the caregivers or people who have gone through the experience? What made it so difficult? What Dr. Pratap Sharan was just now saying, that very different, almost polarized kind of perceptual difference. Why?
But that's because he really liked Dr. Pratap Sharan, so he was nice to him. And, I think it's very personal. How do you deal with it? I'm now, while I say this, that I wish, I was more kind, and I think that I will be more kind to him. But despite the fact that I'm myself on medication, in one part of my mind, I'm not very sure if I would still be very kind to him. But that's not to do only with his medical problem. So it may sound confusing, but and schizophrenic on my part to say this, but the man lived so many lives that some people disliked him extremely. Some people loved him, like his fans and his readers. So I don't know if there could be one message to the caregiver, because as a caregiver myself, I'm not very sure if I would like to take a message.
That's interesting.
I think caregivers should not only be kind to the patient, but also to themselves. That's extremely important. We should not only. I think caregivers should not be kind only to the patient, but also to themselves. They have to heal themselves alongside helping their father, mother, or whoever it is. And I think that's very integral to preserve ourselves and to be empathetic. So I think that's very important that we really protect ourselves as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, please. I know we are slightly over the time.
I'll take only 1 or 2 minutes, sir. I am Indu Paru. I am Indu. I am from Kerala. Actually, I was working with women in depression in the community, and my PhD work was to develop a community-based intervention to manage depression among women. Part of it was a qualitative study to develop an intervention program at the community level. So I was interacting with one of the major stakeholders were women with depression and their relatives, immediate caregivers. So we were actually trying to build, Kerala as such has good system of networks. For example, Kudumbashri is a network with around 4 million families as members, probably the largest in the world. The Asha, the Anganwadi, all those networks were there. So we were trying to build in a system where at the community level, these women will get a psychosocial kind of intervention. The package we can, but the perception of the women with depression and their relatives is that we are ready to interact with the junior public health nurse, who is the auxiliary nurse midwife, part of our health system, because they are not our neighbors. We don't want our immediate neighborhood people to get involved. The point I was trying to make is that yesterday morning we had a discussion in the public mental health, and Dr. Sartori, who is a famous person, one of the priority areas for India, for the world to go forward, to engage or involve with caregivers. Identifying as the caregiver, each one of us, psychiatrist, the psychiatric social worker, the mother, the father, all of us form a part of a team. We holding hands together. Paru is not alone. I and Paru are similar in relation to caring someone. So that kind of a network, it's extremely difficult, not only in India, every part. I quoted example from the community experience where I was trying to build some kind of a system. Of course, Kerala later had a Ashwas kind of program for community intervention through primary care, managing depression and all. But it's really difficult. In that sense, my query to you, both of you, is that as a perception, when you were going through those days of real stress, actually, it is not your problem. It's our problem together. We should have faced it together. We should have been there with you, both physically, emotionally, and physically touching your hands. But then, if we can perceive such a situation, what do you expect? What are your perceptions about such a situations when you're not alone?
That would be an idyllic situation. But we also understand that doctors and psychiatrists don't have so much time at hand. So we understand that. But sometimes you do feel let down, to be honest, that you are expected to understand, but there is no one to understand you. So as a caregiver, sometimes, yes, we did feel very, very alone. And and the society also is not very conducive to caregivers, because when I was in college, he was a professor in the same college I studied. Even senior professors would ask me, what's wrong with him? He should just get out of this zone, And as a student, I used to be embarrassed at times to be told again and again that nothing's wrong with your father. I think he just doesn't want to come back to college. So it was, the empathy was.
What shall we do to, for a better understanding of other faculty, other professors, other teachers, better understanding of mental health?
What should you do as professionals? Maybe have a bit of counseling for us as well, along with the patient. That would be extremely helpful to make us understand that, there is help available for us as well.